think it's because if I don't do it, nobody else will. There's no backup plan. So when I'm in, I'm in. And I think that's where the drive comes from. But I think right beside that's probably work ethic. And I think those two kind of go hand in hand. So I think, like, where does it come from? It's watching my parents as a youngster. Dad worked 5 jobs, fireman, home builder, parked cars at Flames games, like worked. Mom took care of myself and my brother and my sister. And I think watching that, that's all I know.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 3rd episode of the book. Again, first of all, thank you very much for those who have been supporting, watching. So far, it's been a fun experience and definitely something that have been challenging me in different ways, but it's an experience where I've been learning a lot. So thank you very much for the support and watching. Thank you again, SP Experience in Inglewood, for the outfit. This is I really like this one. This, all we did is grab a dress shirt and dressed it up and found little accessories around it. So and I really like it. So thank you very much, SP, for the outfit. Exciting news with SP Experience. We're obviously they're sponsoring the show. We are gonna have a giveaway, a $300 giveaway. There's gonna be a post about it. So there's gonna be, for you to be able to participate and have a chance to win, you're gonna have to like the post about the giveaway. And you're gonna have to be following SP Experience and Bouk Performance, and you're gonna have to comment on the post, tagging a friend. And then from there, we'll do a draw and we'll determine the winner. So if you want to participate, you just keep an eye out for the post, and I hope and may the best one win. Also, thank you very much, Dedicated Kitchen, Marder Loop. If you're looking at a great setup for a sit-down restaurant with healthy options, Marder Loop is the place to go. Or also, if you're looking at meal prep options, Dedicated does an excellent job doing that. They also do an excellent job modifying. If you have any allergies or any concerns with food, you can always talk to them, and they're always happy to modify things for you. So Dedicated Marder Loop, go check it out. Today is going to be a pretty interesting one. I'm really excited about this guest. This is a really great friend of mine. He has been a part of my journey as a business owner from the beginning. And the funny thing about this person is every time we get caught, me and him outside, people are like, how do you guys know each other? So let me tell you how we know each other. Right? So we actually met 20 feet from where I'm sitting right now. We just connected just from a conversation. And also, you guys see this amazing setup. He's also part of it. Him and his partner, Chris, they do an amazing job setting podcasts. If you have anything media related, you have to hit these guys up. They're amazing at what they do. So I will now introduce the next guest. Jeff, come from behind the screen. I know you've done your work. You set it up. Now it's time for us to have a chat.
I got to work.
That's right. So, a lot of time when people talk to me, ask me about you and what do you do for me, and I'm like, he does so many things that it's hard for me to explain. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and talk to me a little bit about what you do.
Well, thanks for having me. Mm-hmm. It's obviously funny to come around like full circle to this. Mm-hmm. What I do, it's kind of a vague thing what I do, right? There's some tactical things that I do, but it's kind of rooted in between brand and storytelling. Mm-hmm. And you and I connected on brand first.
That's right.
And then we've evolved into this, which is a version of storytelling.
Definitely.
So what do I do? Everything digital, from like websites to running ads, podcast production, corporate interviews, mini docs, anything in the digital realm, but kind of rooted in storytelling and brand.
Definitely. And again, you've done obviously an amazing job with your podcast as well, and inviting guests and creating an amazing community in Calgary. And we're going to get to that, as we go. But Jeff Humphreys, this is a very special person in my life, that's guiding me throughout this whole process. I've always had a passion for coaching and helping others, but from a branding standpoint, marketing standpoint, I never really thought about it further. I was just kind of doing my thing, and one day I was decided to start my business, and randomly enough, I think life always does things that way. We connected on that. I think it was 8 a.m. I was actually just coaching a class randomly, and you popped in, you started talking, and I just told you about my idea, and right away you your eyes just sparked, and you had so many ideas and so many ways to guide me. To this day, we're still connected. So I appreciate for everything you've done, and I'm happy you're in the show today. But there's a really cool thing about you that, despite all the stuff that you're doing, and you do so many different things, one thing is that as I got to know you, I actually saw a different side of you. And you're a hungry dude. You have some fire in your eyes. What drives you?
I think it's because if I don't do it, nobody else will. Mm-hmm. So it's that like self-reliance piece. There's no backup plan. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in, I'm in. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the drive comes from. But I think right beside that's probably work ethic. Mm-hmm. And I think those two kind of go hand in hand. So I think, like, where does it come from? It's watching my parents mm-hmm. as a youngster. Mm-hmm. And like, dad worked 5 jobs, mm-hmm. fireman, home builder, parked cars at Flames games, and like worked. Mm-hmm. Mom took care of myself and my brother and my sister. And I think watching that, that's all I know. Mm-hmm. Like, so now it's fun. Like you and I talked about day to day. I'm like, I got a lot going on, but it doesn't feel like work. Mm-hmm. This is just what it is.
Definitely.
And so I think that's where I think the drive, whether it's from athletics, yeah, but I do think it's from how you grew up, like the environment you grew up in.
Sure.
Is kind of the thing that you get without actually being told what it is.
Definitely.
You just pick up on it.
100%. And, just talking to you right now, I just get goosebumps. And every time we talk, I personally feel like we can talk for 2-3 hours. For me, it's therapy. Mm-hmm. Every time we connect, mm-hmm. every time we leave, wherever we are, I feel like I can run to a wall, just because of the connection we have. And you're a dog, and the way you go about your business and about your scheduling, the way you go about, at 6 a.m., you already have stuff ready for me. You go to bed at the same time. I also had a chance to train you at some point. And just watching, I'm like, you send me what you did on the bike. I'm like, dude, are you trying to bike to Edmonton? Like, what are you doing? Every day, the work ethic you have and the drive you have, the fire you have. And the one thing that you said that's pretty cool is you said, if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? Yeah. Where does that mindset come from?
I think it's because I've never had that safety net. Mm. My parents have done a lot. There's no backup here. Like, mm-hmm. I've never had that like backstop of like, hey, yeah, you can go mess around, and like if something doesn't work, we'll pay your mortgage and your rent and all your bills. That conversation has never been had. Never. Because it's just like it's an unapproachable conversation. Yeah. So it's just, that's the thing. You just gotta, it's that self-reliance, I think, is the thing. And I think it's allowed me to make the moves that I have so far. Mm-hmm. And that's it. It's just who I am. That's right. And I do think, I think after having years of experiences, good and bad, mm-hmm. different jobs, I just have there's more data points, that where I can actually understand this clearly now.
Definitely.
But it's just who I am.
I get this, because people always talk about this plan B, Yeah. And when people ask, I'm like, look at you like, oh, bro, there's no plan B. Mm-mm. There's plan A, and that plan A is plan A, B, and C. If plan A doesn't work, I find a new plan A, right? That's all that is, right? There's no safety net, right? And sometimes, obviously, you want to be able to fail in especially at a young age, you want to have a chance to fail in a controlled environment, right? And have a chance to experience things. But I feel sometimes parents rob that opportunity from kids and try and do things for them all the time because they want to make sure things are good for them. But in the end, there's something in psychology called self-concept. Is how you view yourself and how you the confidence that you have doing things. And if you don't let your kid experience things and failing and seeing things from their own experiences, you kind of rob them of that opportunity to develop that, right? Yeah. And how would you say that your parents give you that opportunity?
They just let me loose. Mm-hmm. And it was, they would put me in situations to experience things, mm-hmm. especially in sport. They were always putting me into whatever, whether it's soccer, hockey, anything, like mm-hmm. biking. My dad bought us bikes early. And it's just
What do you mean by bike? Like bicycles?
bicycles, but I guess to that point, my dad used to have it's got a FJ 1100. It was a Yamaha back in the day. It was like the fastest street bike at the time, and he would put me on the front tank, and we'd go for a rip.
Yeah.
So I was always on two wheels, whether it was that thing or mountain bikes. But I think it's the there was no coddling. There was like, it was tough love everywhere, and I thrived in that because I understood boundaries early, and I was able to just figure out a lot by myself. Just like it wasn't this like safe, this like soft hands around me guiding me. It was like, we'll put you in situations, be a good kid, and go figure it out.
Definitely.
And I've thought about this lately, the last probably 3 or 4 years. After the podcast, just like talking to people and like trying to think in my own head of why I am who I am. I think it's that. I think it's like, they didn't tell me anything ever. The only thing they gave me shit about was like school. Like I was a horrible student. But as far as like athletics, I played a high level in sport, and they never once said anything about anything. Not about what do you want, not about pushing me in a direction, nothing. The only time I ever heard anything, if I was being a psycho, my dad would take my car away from me because I was being crazy. But that was on the extremes, right? In anger. So I think it was just, I just could do what I wanted to within constraints, though, right? It wasn't a free pass. I wasn't going out and late at night. It was just, here it is. Go experience something.
So there wasn't, when you said that there wasn't, they kind of let you kind of do your things, and you said that you learned the boundaries. So how did you learn those boundaries if they didn't set them for you?
Boundaries were when you go too far, there's repercussions.
Oh yeah.
And that's the way it was.
You touch that fire, it burns,
That's it. Which I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. I understand that because I really, it makes a lot of sense to me what boundaries are. And I think what they did really well was just put me into sport. And once and they helped me get good at sport too. They were willing to like put me in extra skating programs and they allowed me to go down a path and try and get good at something.
When they set that environment for you in terms of allowing you to do all these extra things for you to get better, is that self-driven, or is this something that they kind of impose on you and you learn to enjoy it over time? No,
man, I think I just, like when I first started playing hockey, my parents put me into hockey. I think I was 5 years old, and I quit the first year. I cried. Like they put me on the ice and I cried.
Why?
Because I couldn't skate. So I have this thing in me that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be really good at it.
Oh yeah, I can tell.
And it's not an ego thing, and I don't say it out loud, but it's like, if I'm going to put effort into something, I'm going to operate at a high level. So I think when I first started hockey, I couldn't skate. Problem. So I was upset. And so I quit the first year that I played hockey.
So put yourself back in that little kid that wanted to be so good, so bad, right? And goes on the ice and just can't do it and quit. How did you feel?
I don't remember it. I remember the only snapshot I remember is like the rink and like holding on the boards, trying to like crawl around the ice.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I remember. And I don't know what the turning point was the next year when I actually did it. But something clicked. And I think it was just either my strength was there and I could actually stand on those skinny little blades. I don't know what the turning point was, but for some reason they put me back in it. And I don't know why.
They put you back in it, or you put yourself back in it?
I don't know. I really can't remember. I'm old, dude. that was a long time ago.
For sure. But at times, because if you didn't want to go back, would your parents force you to go back?
No. I don't. That's interesting. I don't know if they would, because my dad didn't grow up playing hockey, so I don't know what the push was to go like down the hockey route. I'm sure I had like a second chance, and that was probably it. I'm sure if the second time didn't go good, it would have been. We tried. This isn't your thing.
How old were you at the time?
Well, I quit the first year when I was 5.
5, yeah.
And then I would have come back the second time. Well, I must have been 5 or maybe 6.
And when you quit, what did you do after that?
I don't know.
Just went back to being a 5-year-old?
That's it. Ripping around on a little trike.
That's right.
Yeah, super basic. I wasn't, but it was early, right? That to start a sport at that age is It's early.
For sure. And it's not just a sport. Hockey is a very technical sport because it's not just stick handling and shooting. All this. You have to do that on skates, right? If you can't skate, you can't play, right? And to have, which is a good thing to start out at a young age. At that age, you're sponges. You learn how to adapt quickly, but it's still very complicated and very complex, and it challenges you in so many ways. And at that age, it's hard to overcome some of those mental challenges that you have trying to acquire that skill, right? Yeah. But when you push through, right, and you continue, you do it, there's great things that comes on the other side of that, right? Sure. So talk to us a little bit about your journey as a hockey player. I know you play hockey in this city. You're from Calgary, grew up here, and and I always love hearing your stories and how you have a lot of people that I know that you play still hockey with to this day that you play with when you're younger. Talk a little bit about your story of a hockey player.
So hockey was the one thing that I actually excelled at. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, school is not my jam from a young age. Like elementary, junior high, like bad grades. But hockey was this thing where I think it was my first year Adam, which is, I think that's U11 now. Mm-hmm. So I think I started off, play like 2 years of Timbit or something, and then it was novice back then, and I wasn't very good. But my parents kept putting me in power skating, and I would just go to this thing. I remember whether it was twice a year or once a year. Anyways, my first year in Adam, so I was 9, I guess. Mm-hmm. They made the number 1 team from nowhere, and so something clicked, and so from there, just the friends of Adam and that Pee Wee grew. I'm still friends with these guys today, which is really cool. But then it went through. But that was the thing. So in junior high, you get like a Trails West jacket. It's like it was those old school ones with like leather and like the fuzzy middle.
You felt good wearing that.
Felt good. You had like your name on it and like what position you played. And then after you play community Trails West through Pee Wee, then you go to then I went to the Royals, and so that's AA. Yeah. And so the interesting thing about that is you kind of don't know where you fit in the system because it's like a quadrant, right? You're good within your community, and then you go to the quadrant. So there's always these checks and balances of like, okay, you're good in this pond. What happens in the next pond? And so for whatever reason, I was like a driven kid, and something just like, you tie skates on my feet, and then something clicked, like something turns off in my head, and I go into this very anger-driven, crazy state. Yeah. And that went all the way through the Royals, and it was a blessing and a curse. But it was the thing that just gave me a lot of confidence. I could walk around wherever. You got that thing in your back pocket, you're like, I'm good at something. Yeah. And so when you're walking around the hallways in high school, and you're like, this is not my place. I'm very uncomfortable, but I could still walk with my head up because I had this thing in my back pocket that I was getting good at. Yeah. And I think that was just having something in my life that I was excelling at was really, it was meaningful. It gave me some, it wasn't purpose, but as a youngster, you're kind of defined by that, right? Like, for sure. You're that guy. Same thing in like football, right? Like when you start 16, 17, you kind of are this person. And so hockey was kind of the thing that set me up for who I am.
I agree with that. But the cool thing about this story is at first you weren't good at it, right? It was tough. And, when we talk about environment, like you talked about before, and you actually just touched on that a little bit, is how you were raised. There's something I think we all have within us. It's called self-actualization abilities, right? And this ability is to be able to kind of, there's like a path, right? And sometimes we kind of drift away from the path, even left and right. And there's something within us that kind of brings us back, right? Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes everybody's a little bit different. And when you grow up in an environment like this, when the standard's so high, you're taught to readdress your meter by yourself really quickly, right? And the standard that you have right now, and you grow up with a certain standard, it's not because you grow up with a standard that you just stick with it. You always have a chance to abide by and keep it and move forward, and it stays with you, right? And the longer it stays with you, I believe that self-actualization abilities become better and better and better. And you can kind of feel when you need to get better, how you need to be better, and so on and so forth. For you in hockey, do you feel like now that I'm telling you this, do you feel that can you go back to that and feel that sense and trying to get better? Oh man, like I missed this shot. I got to go back home and trying to shoot a little bit more in the driveway. Oh, I need to work on my edges a little bit. Did you have that feeling?
It was more, I spent a lot of time in the outdoor rink.
Mm-hmm.
I was like volunteering at the rink. I would go shovel the thing, flood the thing at night.
Yeah.
And I would spend a lot of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the start of the year when you're in tryouts and you're looking around these rooms,
Yeah.
and there's whatever, to make these teams, there's, I don't know, 60, 70 guys trying out for 20 spots. I just look around the room. I'd be like, I got that guy. Got that guy. That guy's problem. That guy's a problem.
Yeah.
And then so my thing would be, it was like reading the room, and I would just crank it up.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I would just and whatever I would do the thing that would make me different. I would do the thing that just separates me from everybody else, and that would be something vicious.
Definitely.
And that was my and as far as the putting in the time to get better, it was an outdoor rink. And it's the classic hockey story of just being out there.
For sure. It's free, man. It's
it.
out there.
That's it.
It's always out there. You can always find a way to get better out there. Right?
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be, sometimes, obviously, I have a lot of respect for these skill coaches out there and those power skating coaches because they do an amazing job and to set a foundation and continue to get better. But sometimes people always wait till they have this session to get better. Yeah. Where there's a lot of opportunities out there to get better, right? And you always took advantage of those opportunities, right? Which allow you to get better at hockey.
Totally.
I have a question for you in hockey. You're a very fiery guy, right? You're a calm guy, but you have a lot of you have a punch to you. Yeah. Did you play the game that way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was on the edge, but I was usually crossing the edge. Yeah. It got me a lot of trouble. And it's the reason that I didn't go on. It's the thing that caught out to me, and I was like, okay, it just doesn't work.
Feisty Jeff.
But it was it's insane of how wild I would get.
Really?
Crazy.
Give us an example. The first thing that comes to mind.
The first thing that comes to mind is I'm playing midget AAA. Yeah. First year, packed house. Somebody kind of ran into our goalie. So he's kind of, I don't know if he was on the ice or if somebody put him on the ice, but I ended up on top of him with my stick across his throat, pinning him to the ground. And so I came back to the bench and my coach was like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you cannot do that. And he sent me up the room. That was it.
No way.
It was just, there was always something.
For sure.
There was always a little twitch to me.
Were you only like that on the ice?
Yep. Unless it came down to protecting family and friends, then I can go there pretty quick.
Definitely.
But yeah, hockey was just because off ice I'm quiet, introvert, don't want to stand up in class and talk. I'm not a mouthpiece. And you put skates on me, throw me in between those boards, just click.
And it's funny that you said that because when we met, right, you was this calm dude, curly hair, fresh hair, always probably still have the same hair product to this day, smells the same, smells amazing. But you were just that calm, cool dude that just rode his bike and work on digital marketing and all these different things, right? And then we started spending more time together, and I've had a chance to see that switch. And it's not a aggression or it's just, there's just something that goes on in your brain and you just focus and you're locked in and you're passionate and you have a lot of passion in what you do, right? And now you had a lot of passion in hockey and you just said that, it kind of ended for you at this point. What happened next for you? And how did you channel that passion into other things?
When I kind of stopped playing hockey, chasing it, and chasing it was NCAA Div 1 scholarships. That's what was kind of on the,
for sure,
getting letters from different colleges and stuff. Yeah. So that was the loose trajectory. Yeah. The thing that replaced it and that calmed me down actually was music.
Yeah.
And it's so when you grow up playing hockey in the 90s, it's Guns N' Roses, Metallica, George Thorogood, like just that's what it was back then.
Yeah.
And so after hockey, even like when I was still playing though, I like, fake ID, going out, finding clubs early. And I was just getting pulled that way.
Yeah.
And so when I found the nightlife culture, music was the thing that changed everything. It like soothed me. And it actually, and so that was the thing that really, the next passion thing in my life was music. And then I ran with that for almost a decade.
A decade, huh? And when you talk about music, right? And what did that become for you? You talked about music, being in the music industry. What was your role in that music industry?
So I was working in a nightclub called the Embassy in Calgary.
Okay.
2 floors with a patio, different music on each floor.
Yeah. So there's that a different...
Yeah, different DJ.
In each floor.
Yep.
That's cool.
It was awesome. It was a really cool club, early 2000s. And there's a dude that started working there, DJ Rice.
Okay.
He's playing the basements. And he's playing this like type of house music that I've never heard of. I'm a hockey guy. We listen to this. Yeah. Like that's all it was.
Now the kids listen to that stuff more now.
Yeah.
Like the house music and all these different things.
This is like,
maybe not at the time.
There's no digital back then, right? This is CDs.
Okay.
Like this is like, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no online. So it's like burnt CDs, Columbia House. So anyways, I found his music and then I ended up working at the Embassy and I started out bussing there.
Okay.
Picking up glasses in this nightclub, drinking while I was working, dancing when I wasn't picking up glasses.
Just in your own world.
Totally. And it was an interesting time. There was no cell phones back then either. Yeah. So once people were there, they were there, right? They're not looking at their phone to see who is where they got to be. And so DJ Rice was playing this music and I was just like, it'd give me goosebumps. And it was just this like feeling. It was really like, you could just feel it. And so when I moved to Toronto for a job, and when I came back, I'm like, I'm going to be a DJ because I found this nightclub scene in Toronto. I'd go to these clubs with my buddy Cam and we'd listen to, all these cool DJs. Became friends with this one guy and I kind of was asking, like, where do you get this music from? What is this? And he was like explaining it.
How did you get music back in the days? How would you collect records? Okay.
I'd buy 12-inch.
Okay.
I'd buy them from Toronto and get them shipped to Calgary.
Okay.
So when I decided to do it, I bought the best turntables. I lived in my parents' basement. I was like 24 or something, living with my parents still. Weird. Bought the best turntables, the best needles, the best headphones, a decent mixer, and bought 12-inch out of Toronto. So I invested all this money.
Right. So you said you went to Toronto, and right away you made the decision then to become a DJ?
No, I was like, I was going to these clubs, listening to the music, and I was like, man, this is so cool. And it became accessible because the internet showed up.
Yeah. So
I could actually do some research and figure out what it was. So when I moved home, I was like, I'm not going to pay rent. I'm going to live in my parents' basement. I'm going to spend all that money. I'm going to buy the gear, and I'm going to figure it out. And so in 2003, I built a website called calgarysoul.com.
Okay.
And this is interesting because it ties to the podcast. In 2003, me and a buddy built a website, and I built pages for DJs, and you could post mixes on these pages. Okay. This is before like Facebook, before WordPress, before Squarespace, before all these things. So my buddy like hard coded this, like make a website, build these landing pages for DJs, and I'd put my name beside the best DJs in the city.
Okay.
I'm a basement guy trying to get out there. And what happens? All of a sudden I start getting gigs. I get written up and fast forward, and then it started. So from 2002 to like 2010, I played out in clubs. And it's just this like, it was, I'd work 2 nights a week. That was all I was doing, was living in basement suites, DJing 2 nights a week.
Yeah, but the thing about DJing, I had a chance to kind of dabble with it a little bit because I'm passionate about music. I love music. There's music in everything that I do. I always find a reason to have music in what I do because it's just, it calms me down, and it allows me to kind of get in my own world. And then when you get into that DJ world, you're trying to do it, and people are just like, oh, you're just showing up, playing music. No, man, there's a lot of work that goes into cutting music, cueing music, feeling things. There's so much music coming out that for you to stay up to date, you have to be working a lot to stay a relevant DJ, right? So what did you do throughout the week?
So back then it was the record store was called Play to Record out of Toronto, and they would just do weekly releases. And so you're on this website. Like, I think it was every Thursday they would drop all the new tracks on their website. You just like hit play, listen, order. And so I was spending, I think when I started buying records in like 01, probably stopped in 06, 07. I have 1,100 records.
Wow.
Probably like, I don't know what I'm probably into them for like $21,000 to $25,000. And so it's just very manual. Just go to this website and hit play. And then when it went digital, same thing. So you're right. The hunt for music is every day.
Yeah.
You're looking for something because you want to be the person that breaks a track in the city.
The first one. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so that was my thing, you know, like finding music that others didn't have that actually had a feeling to it.
Yeah. So you're talking about that passion that you had, and it's again starting like as a little kid to always trying to be better and trying to be the best, right? And it required you to be creative and always put yourself. Obviously, you got the nice equipment, but having the equipment, you can have the fancy equipment, but if you have hands like bricks and you can't do nothing, right? You have nice shiny equipment, but nobody there watching you play, right? Yep. And again, talking about passion. Being able to transition from hockey to music and have that same mentality is awesome. But another great thing that's about you is that's very special. And I know that every single person that knows you knows the special skill that you have is your ability to connect. And the one thing I really love about DJs, right? And I always, you know, and I don't know if everybody feels the same way, but there's always certain people that I feel connected to. And it doesn't matter what they do, when they're live and I see them live, I just felt so connected to them. And for me, it's a source of therapy. It's for me, I feel like the person understands me, right? How is it to connect as a DJ with your crowd?
The nights when you like walk away and you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That high?
Yeah.
For me, it was like trying to chase that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a great idea because I was trying to take that high and put it into every other piece of my life, right? Relationships.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, well, it just didn't really work. But the connection, the thing about my craft was like, technically I probably was never the best, but as far as like reading a room and actually making them feel something, I was really good.
That's a skill.
Really good. Yeah. And that was, I don't know, because I would feel it. Like I could just feel the music and I knew it. I knew it when I had them, when I like got them to a point and had them, because I would just go like full goosebumps. And then the rest of the night was just like, it's over.
That's awesome. And that's always the reason why I wanted to become a DJ is I always like to give people an experience, right? And when you get to be a DJ, is you get the people, you have an opportunity. It's like in a way, it's like a service industry, right? Yeah. It's like being a bartender, you get to offer somebody an experience, and you get to choose how the experience goes based on the person that you see, right? And sometimes what things that bothers me sometimes with DJs, and I'm like, okay, he's about to play this song again, you know, it's 1:15, about to play that song, right? It's always the same thing over and over and over again, man. It's like, dude, I could be either doing the same. Just give me the track, I'll just press play. How different was it every night?
It was, because back then you would pack records. That's right. And so you can only bring a couple of records. So the pregame, before you went anywhere, you'd have to go through your collection. Yeah. And you try and like, you'd put like styles kind of together, early, mid, and then when it's going off. It was always different, but there's always a trigger, you know, and when the trigger worked, you'd probably play the trigger weekly, right? Yeah. And especially, you know, when you get the reaction, you kind of got to go there. Yeah. But it was always this creative experiment of trying to introduce people to new music and just like mess with them a little bit. And I would be very strategic of when it was time to mess with them, because when they were ripping and the dance floors was like rolling, and then you give them something that they've never heard of. It's a creative twist, and you just watch and see what happens. For sure. And then you just have more data points to make decisions.
That's cool. That's cool. And
it's funny you bring it up because
Yeah.
nobody knows I did this
Mhm.
for that duration of time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I haven't done it in a long time, but it's funny to sit back and remember these days.
I would love to see you behind the turntable, just kind of go at it again and just see what it looked like and see that passion in you doing it. I think it would be a cool experience. Maybe we'll have to do that.
Yeah,
one
totally.
day.
And it's what's funny because I wasn't, again, there was no internet back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so the DJ wasn't the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you see online right now is just people like dancing behind turntables and hitting buttons. Like,
For sure.
I let the music kind of showcase my energy.
Yeah.
And so when there was this, like, if there was a song that was like gospel
Mm-hmm.
and it just like broke down and there was somebody singing,
Yeah,
that was like my release.
definitely.
But I wouldn't be sitting there like jumping around like an idiot. I would just like watch and just people like and then the goosebumps. And like, okay, away we go.
That's awesome. And you talk about there was no internet back then, all these different things, and I wonder right now DJs, the popular one, the big one, they make a decent living doing what they're doing a really good job financially. But at the time, how was that to be a DJ Friday, Saturdays? Was that enough for you to live, or you had to find other things?
It was like, I think I was probably making like $500 a weekend, working 2 nights. And so I had to find other work. I started my own little web design, graphic design business back then in like 2001.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I tried to do my own thing for a while, but it was an interesting time as all your peers are like going to university and getting married or buying houses. And here I am. My brother got married. I'm living in a buddy's basement suite, DJing 2 nights a week, driving these beat up vehicles. Like it's that kind of beat down story.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I kept doing it. I have no idea why I did that for so long.
Because you're good at it.
I guess, but it's like, it didn't make sense, right? Like I definitely felt like I wasn't getting ahead, but I kept doing it.
Again, that self-actualization piece for you was there is now you start, and now you remember walking in that locker room, engaging each person, and now you're like looking at your friends. Okay, so-and-so's been married, buying a house. It's not. Look at me now, DJing still, not having which is, there's no, to be honest, when you look at things, there's no shame in that, right?
No.
You're doing something that you love and you're doing it at a high level, right? You weren't just showing up. Right? It doesn't matter what you do, it's about how you do it. It's just what you love at the time didn't pay the bills the way you would want to, right? But eventually you transition and you had to start make a pivot a little bit and enter the workforce in a different light. Can you share a little bit about that?
What's interesting is and that's why I like having these conversations, because I think for creatives, when you're in that thing, when you're doing the thing that you love, and there's no money in it,
it's tough.
It's a cliche thing of like, just keep doing it.
That's right.
It's hard though. It's hard when you're in it to actually hear that and actually trust it.
That's right.
And I think even if people start hearing that, it's tough to sit with that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's funny. My brother got married at like 21. I was like 24-ish, and I was his best man. And I had to stand up and do the speech or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said something along the lines of like, fuck, am I ever a deadbeat? Living in my parents' basement, DJing 2 nights a week, and here's my little brother, bought a condo, getting married, has a job. And so it was always, yes, I was doing something that I loved, but there's always this thing in the back of my head. I'm like, man, I got to figure this out because I'm kind of getting behind.
Which is that feeling, and it's interesting that you share that because there's always pros and cons to things, right?
Yeah.
And you're in an environment where, I can speak on that a little bit because I grew up with dogs. My siblings, they're dogs, right? They go-getters, right? And my dad, my mom, they all like that. See, in ways, it's good that you have that, but at times, what that creates also is not good enough, right? I'm not doing enough. I gotta do more, and I gotta do more, and it's hard to be in the moment, right? Because you're always looking at what can I do better, right? And for you at that time when you're DJing, any of your parents or your relative and your friends say anything to you?
No.
No?
No, nobody
It's
said
all
it.
in your head.
Yeah, nobody said anything.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes back to that. I didn't grow up with somebody telling me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
And, I think if it would have got to a point, if I was like into drugs and drinking too much, and if I was going down that path, I'm sure somebody would say something, but I wasn't. I was just doing this obscure creative thing. It's like a painter. It's like anybody in that creative realm. It's obscure, and you're kind of chasing it. And the only thing that changed for me was I tried to start up my own little business, like I said, doing websites and logos. I was sick. I was like living with a buddy in the basement, sick, bored, questioning things. And this job popped up online. And I was just like web coordinator for Hockey Canada.
Okay.
That was it. I was like, well, I know how to skate, so it's at Hockey Canada. Sounds kind of cool. They're, what they're doing online is not great. I think I can help them. So I got the job. And that was kind of that. I think that was in 2007. And so that was my first. I worked at Critical Mass when I was a youngster, like 2001, doing web design.
Yeah.
And then I took 4 or 5 years off, trying to do my own thing, DJing. And then this Hockey Canada job was the start of my corporate
life,
career.
But did you keep DJing, or is just cold turkey? You stopped there?
No, I kept DJing. Okay. So it's like you live in that dual life, right? This corporate thing, Monday to Friday, but then your coworkers are like, "You do what?"
Like businessman in the day and party animal at night.
And so it was the timing. It was just time, and I don't know what it was in my head, but I think I had. It was time to make a move, right? Yeah. Like the creative thing was okay, but there's too many things lurking in my head. I'm like, I gotta get ahead. I gotta do something because everything's moving past me. And I don't know how old I was, but I had that thing. The thing haunted me for a long time. Just like, I gotta catch up.
So what'd you do about it?
I thought getting that job would be the start of it, and I don't know. Corporate's not what I thought it was. I could say where I work now, right? I work at Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
There's some a
little flex there.
Yeah. And it's also just like, okay, I'm doing something with my life, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing, and I worked there for like almost 4 years. And it was cool. It was hockey and work and like graphic design stuff, so it worked out really well. Yeah. And then my trigger to leave was I pitched my boss on a new position.
You couldn't stay still. You had to find the next thing.
That's it. And so I wrote this 50-page doc that I should probably post pretty soon. And the job title was social media manager. So this is like 2009. Yeah. Facebook started in like 2006. Yeah. So it's fresh.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so people didn't really understand the true power of social media at the time.
Nope. So I pitched it to my boss. He kind of laughed. He looked at this like thick document, kind of laughed me off. He's like, I'm sure this is great, but it's never going to happen. So then I just get angry. So when I get pushed into a corner, there's only one way to come out. Yeah. I don't swinging. But the other thing too is I think there's this, you kind of touched on it earlier, but like when you put things into the universe, things happen. And so I went all in on like researching social, Gary Vaynerchuk, all these guys back then. I went all in on figuring this thing out. And so I was giving a lot of energy. I was putting it out there. Met a friend of mine. He wanted to talk about music in all his restaurants. It's 2010. He's like, well, I need help programming all these restaurants. Can I talk to you? Yeah, sure. So anyways, we got talking. He said, what are you up to? I said, I got this job and my boss is pissing me off. I wrote this proposal. And he's like, what is it? And I told him. He's like, oh, tell me more. So anyways, I tell him, by the end of our couple of beers, he's like, when do you want to start working for me?
Oh, wow.
So that was the progression, right? But I think there's that value of going all in on something, doing all the research, just like really understanding something. And I think that just works. As like hokey as that is, you allocate that kind of energy and time towards something and start saying it out loud, opportunities show up.
For sure. And I just don't want to bypass this right now because people always get an opportunity to pitch what they do, right? And if your energy is the same that you have right now, I can feel exactly when you sat down with this person and show up, you talked about your idea, that light and that spark in your eyes. And that's something people need to understand is you can have the knowledge, you can have the skill, you can have all these things, but there's something that makes people special. And especially when you're passionate about something and you got fire, there's a lot of things that happen with that. You know, you can, yes, you will do a good job because you have a lot of skill, you have a lot of knowledge, and you have a X, Y, and Z. But there's a special fire that people have that allow them to be great. Right? And now that I don't know what it looked like at the time, but if you spoke to them the way you speak to me, it's a home run right away. You got to go with it, right? Because there's something we feel when you talk to you about what you do, and that's special, right? So now when you start that, you had this opportunity. How did you manage that? How did you run with it? Was it a home run right at the get-go, or you had to, learn different things to achieve that?
I had it figured out in my head, right?
It was all in there.
I ran the scenarios. I knew which way to go. Yeah. Because I'd put in all the work to figure it out.
You were ready.
I was ready. So there's no hesitation. Mm-hmm. The only thing that he put me to task on was when I got there, his Facebook page had 100 and some odd people. Mm-hmm. He's like, I want 10,000. I was like, okay. So we had to come up with this campaign in 2011 of how to get 10,000 people on this Facebook page. So that was the first time I had been put to task. You have all these ideas, you have this knowledge.
Did you get it done?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
It's like when you think about something over and over and over, just because you're not talking about it all the time, but it's on your brain. Yeah. I don't know why, but you get there.
It's like a disc on repeat.
And you just get there. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, and so that run there was 9.5 years. Mm-hmm. And so that was
9.5 years.
9.5 years at a corporate gig just down the street here. Mm-hmm. And it's the reason that I can do what I do today. Mm. So, I think it's that some people are, start their own thing early. Yeah. And just go there right away. I had a different approach, right? I had to go somewhere, learn the ropes, spend somebody else's money, learn a different way so I could do what I'm doing now. Yeah,
but I think the approach you had, that's sometimes I look at people as they like to skip steps, right? Yep. They see this person doing something, and I need to do it too, and I know how to do it. And you need to go step by step. Yep. You need to learn the ropes because at some point, and you can't copy, there's a lot of copycats out there. You need to understand what you're doing because the person that's doing it, that you're looking at it, there's a context attached to what they're doing and why they're doing it that way, right? And once you understand what you do and you've battle tested, you've done it over and over again, right? You also done it in a controlled environment where you kind of protect over a shell a little bit. You had a chance to try things, fail, and then really grasp things and understand how to do things. It takes you to another level, right? And now that you acquire these skills at that company, what happens, as you get, you said you've been there for 9.5 years. There's a lot of trial and error and successes in that and failures. Mm-hmm. What happens?
We get fired for being an asshole.
You got pushed in the corner again?
Well, yeah, and it's interesting, right? When you're in the corporate life, it's you want the next job title, right?
Yeah.
And the job title is the thing that's supposed to make you something, right?
Yeah.
So you're chasing job title, right? And when the job title's not showing up and you can see there's a ceiling there, I become an asshole. And so what happens is, I had a long leash and then you get a new boss. And me and the boss, whether it's coaches, referees, whatever, right? I have a problem with authority. Mm-hmm. If they're good and I trust them and I believe in them, I'm fine.
100%.
But the minute they're not.
It's not you have a problem with authority, it's you have a problem with the wrong type of leadership.
That's it. Mm-hmm. And so that changes. And then I become an asshole. And so the guy that hired me fired me. He sat me down on a Sunday afternoon. Went for beers. Mm-hmm. He's like, it's not working. I said, yeah, man, I know. He's like, yeah, we're gonna let you go. I was like, oh shit, we're here. I didn't realize it was gonna be right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I got fired on a Sunday afternoon. And
on a Sunday afternoon?
Yeah. And so, which was cool because like he's like, dude, I didn't want to bring you into the boardroom on a Monday morning and let you walk through the office and walk out. He's like, I want to do this. He's great. And him and I were friends before we started, before he hired me. He was my boss for 8 years. So we had a good relationship. But yeah, the firing. And so the firing is a shot at everything. Your ego, your self-worth.
Definitely.
You're like, you have a bunch of bills now because you had a job for a while. So you have things you got to take care of. So yeah, so to get fired on a Sunday afternoon was an uncomfortable situation.
I'm sure, and was there, obviously there had to be a transition there, you got let go. Did it take you time for you to get back on your feet, or did you like, sometimes people have to take a few weeks to kind of, obviously when it hits your ego like this and you hits, a sense of self-worth in a way, right?
Yep.
Sometimes the transition period can be dicey for some people and it can last a long time, right? How did that happen for you?
It was quick. It was Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Went to bed, didn't have a good sleep, but woke up went for a bike ride. Halfway through my loop, I'm like, fuck this. And that was it. Just like turned it. And that was so no more pity party, no more nothing. And so then I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? So then I started thinking about the things I need to do. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to start applying for jobs. So the pity party lasted, less than 24 hours. But I let myself, I was quiet, I was upset, couldn't sleep.
Which is okay.
Which is good. But I knew I couldn't, there's no backstop. Nobody's calling me and be like, hey, we'll help you pay your mortgage for the next 3 months. That's right. So I had to figure it out.
Yeah, that self-actualization piece had to come back. And it's not something you have to think about. Yeah. It's just something that just becomes part of who you are. In everything, it's just, okay, what's next, right? And that's cool. And then actually, what was next?
What was next is I started applying for jobs. And I think that's why I have a lot of respect for people that are, and compassion for people that are looking for jobs. The energy and time to like go through Indeed and start crafting resumes and cover letters before GPT and applying for all these jobs was a nightmare.
It's hard.
And so I thought that was my move. But meanwhile, right before I got fired, I was like, man, I think I should go do my own thing. I think I have enough knowledge in this digital world that I can go do my own thing. And I would think about that for a little bit, and I put it to bed. And then it would come up again as my boss pissed me off. I'm like, fuck, I should do my own thing. I should go get a new job. So it was always kind of like lurking there. Yeah. And so I kept on applying for jobs, and I got one interview. And it was for this national brand, digital whatever marketing person. Went for an interview. And the dude that walked in the room had no idea of who I was and what my background was. And he started asking me questions. He's like, hey, we're thinking of spending money on Facebook to do some digital advertising. I'm like, great idea. So my last job, we've been spending money on Facebook for 9 years, almost 10. He's like, oh. And so it turned into, it wasn't an interview, it was me kind of explaining to him what's possible and how to do it. And I walked out of that interview, and halfway down the stairs, I was like, fuck this. I'm never going to get interviewed by anybody ever again. And that was it. And so that was like, I got fired August 27th and I incorporated October 1st.
So just like that.
So it was like,
you didn't just start you just incorporated. That's it.
And so I knew, if I say it out loud and say it to myself, it kind of gives me direction. And so that was my moment. I was like, I'm not going to wait for something. I'm not going to let somebody else control what I'm up to. I got this.
Okay. Which is awesome. Now I'm going to try and tie two pieces there. Now you're for the first time, outside of being a DJ, you get to go through your craft on your own, right? And that little 5-year-old kid now on the ice with these skates, right? Now you're by yourself, right? And you can't play. You're just falling around and you quit, right? Fast forward now, you get the chance to be incorporated and have your own business for the first time. What happened then? Was it that little kid that fell and quit? Or what happened at that moment for you?
No, man, I was like, there's one option.
One option.
Figure it out.
That's right.
And I made phone calls to the smartest people I knew. How do I set up a company? Like, what do I have to do? And I just asked stupid questions. And I had a good community around me, which is this kind of, undertone my whole life, this community piece around. There's always good people in my world.
Yeah.
And so that was it. I just figured out, I was doing all the things I could. I could build my own website. I could do my own logo. I could do all these things.
You acquired all these skills over the years.
And so I had all these things. So when I started, I was like 42 when I started my business. So it's not like I was, 22, 23, 30, 31. I was I was in it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of experiences to figure this out.
You're a lot more, you were way more equipped at the time.
That's it.
Because at the end of the day, I know that you've had success in your business and you're doing very well right now, but there's still adversity.
Yeah.
Right? There's still things in there that you have to figure out. But a 5-year-old kid is not as equipped than you were at the time at 42 after have done all these things in different industries, right? You play sports and then be in the music industry, and you also meet a lot of people in the music industry, exposed to a lot of things, and you work in, at different places, and now you're here having your own business, right? And now you have to go, you have to succeed, right? And talk to us a little bit about the evolution of that business, because I remember us talking about, and I've actually asked you this question. So Jeff, because you do so many things, right? And it's cool to have the audience to get an understanding of you. And I'm like, Jeff, I know you work with me and you obviously help with my brand and my brand development, but actually, what do you do, right? So talk to us a little bit about that evolution of things and how you actually ended up anchoring yourself in the end into what you do.
So when you start a business, you kind of want to use all your skills.
Yeah.
So you're kind of a generalist. I can create content, pictures, videos. I can run your social media channel. I can buy ads for you. I can build your website. I can do all the things.
Yeah.
So you build a website, right? And you have all your services on there. These are all the things you do. And you run around and, the first thing I did was send an email to 200 people that I know. Here's what I'm up to. And you get 2 people responding back to be like, oh yeah, I have an idea. So one of the guys that responded to me gave me my first contract. And that's what stood me up. This guy I water ski with.
Oh yeah, because you also water ski.
So it's like this community piece, right? So I'm attached to these different communities. And so the water ski, this guy Carl gave me my first contract. And then I was a generalist. Essentially I could bolt myself onto companies as an external marketing team and do all the things. To where it is today, you and I are sitting in a set. And I'm not smart enough to do this by myself. But what I am really good at is connecting with people, seeing opportunities, and then knowing that video's been the thing. Video's been my driver since the day when I opened this business. And now partnering with Chris.
Actually, let's pause here. Chris, I know, Chris, come here. Just for a few moments here, because people need to understand, that there's someone behind this, right? And that you partnered with. And he is such an amazing at what he does, and he likes to be behind the camera. But I want to give an opportunity for people to see him, and we'll come back to things. So just
right in the middle,
just right in the middle, right? And
but it goes back to the idea around team.
This is Chris.
this is Chris, and so team is important, right?
That's right.
And you have to know what your skills are.
That's right.
And so I'm dangerous with what my skill set is. I can do it. I can do enough.
Yeah.
But when you know what your limits are, and you know what your strengths really are, you need to do this to create this. And when this is now the new norm and this is the bar, it's sky's the limit.
Definitely. And Chris, the reason why I want you to come here is I know you're not a person that likes to be out there, but it's very important for people. When people hold cameras, you don't often see you see the beautiful things that they do, but you don't get to see their face, right? And I want to put a face to the name. And I am telling you, I've been wanting to do this, but not once in my head I've ever pictured this being this great, and every session is better and better and better and better. And you have this ability to make people I was like, well, I don't need a makeup artist. I have Chris. Chris just makes everybody looks great, right? So Chris, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And you're doing such an amazing job, and the sky's the limit for you. And there's a lot of great things ahead. And again, for those of you who are looking at trying to figure out who Chris is, this is Chris. And you will see him again, because this is just the beginning.
Exactly.
Thank you, Chris.
But and that's the transition, right? It goes from a generalist to now, we're assassins of what we're up to.
Yeah.
With this combination,
For sure.
and Aaron, the other piece of the equation.
Yeah, definitely. Aaron, you'll get a chance to be on the show at some point as well.
Yeah, and so we're dangerous now, right? Because I understand why and how. And now with the team, this team specifically,
Definitely.
and this is V2 of the team. You always have to have a team behind you, right? And and that's been the last 5.5 years. It's been the team behind me that allows me to keep growing.
Definitely. And allowing you to embellish the skills that you have as well, right? And that's something that I've seen you always trying to surround yourself with people that, because you're good at one thing, you can't have 20 people do exactly what you do.
Yeah.
You have to have people that do different things that make what you do even better, right? And now obviously we talked about all the stuff that you do from a digital and marketing standpoint and all these different things on social media, but we also started something very special called Calgary Sessions, and you're on episode 158.
Yeah.
See, I keep track,
good.
right?
Yeah, good research, buddy.
Right. So I actually had a chance to sit down and be a guest on your podcast. I think I was a guest number 8. See, I remember, and that's just a testament of how special that experience was for me. We've kind of connected, talking about marketing and different things, and then you say, you know what, like everything that you do, I'm doing this, right? And you just went full on and full speed. And when we talked on there, again, your ability to connect really was a differentiator for you, right? And how was that, having to build a business, connecting with people, but also building a team? What was your process of that, and how were you able to connect with Chris and those people?
Like the podcast is the connector, right? It's the answer to everything. And I've told you this from the get, right?
Yeah.
It's the thing that unlocks all the things. Yeah. And so being able to connect with people is something that I didn't know that I had. Did I understand when you and I met right here that it would lead to this? No. But what I am really good at is picking up an energy.
Yeah.
And that's the variable of success for me, right?
The DJ Jeff in that, yeah.
And so everything I've come to realize, everything I do is based on intuition and gut. And so connecting with people and building a team, it's just gut intuition. And it's very gray. And there's obviously, when I say gray, there's only one person to mention, that's Sandra Wigg.
Oh yeah, I love Sandra.
And so
amazing person.
Now that I have all these data points, I started later in my life, I'm very confident with when I see things and feel things that I know what to do with it.
Yeah. And
so the Chris example is like, Chris and I met in my back alley. And right away, I was like, he was doing a photo shoot for a buddy. Yeah. And he's like, you should check him out. So I checked him out. I'm like, instantly, I'm like, I need to keep my eye on this guy.
Yeah.
And that was it. So I just watched him for like 2 years, a year and a half. And when it came time to pivot on my business, I'm like, there's one phone call to make. And that was it. So it's like, it's being very aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just trusting my gut.
Yeah.
And those are kind of my two drivers.
Yeah. And it's like something in life, sports is it's a great opportunity to learn that, right?
Yeah.
It's trusting your gut. Right?
Yeah.
You know, especially in hockey, the higher level you go to, the puck moves so fast. You don't have time to always thinking about, obviously you want to be calculating on what you do, but sometimes you just got to trust your gut and go, right?
Yeah.
And that's a skill you need to learn. And you also learn this skill by doing things, trying things, failing at things, right?
Yeah.
If you always have this umbrella, right, you don't really get to experience trusting your gut because you never follow that. You just follow what everybody else is telling you, right? Now look at you now being a business owner, not having this umbrella. Obviously, like you said, you had a community surrounding you, supporting you, but it allowed you to make those choices and failing. Now you have the ability now as a successful business owner to trust your gut and do it at a high level, right? And now, you're also starting a new project with Chris and also another partner that's pretty unique, right? And I want the audience to kind of, I know there's still things in the works, but I want you to give a little bit of a snippet of what it is.
I've been thinking obviously a lot about this project and thinking, and as I sit down with all these characters on the podcast, they make me think about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
The podcast has unlocked everything. And when I said it earlier, it's the everything.
Yeah.
It's the reason this new project exists. And it's funny, I just looked at this. So in September 14th or 17th, 2023, I made this post on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. And I was like, is anybody looking for commercial real estate? I have an idea. And so my idea back then was create this multi-use facility. Main floor was like offices with the podcast studio. And upstairs was going to be 2 or 3 floors of residential rental condos. That was my idea. And so the reason I had the idea was because of the podcast. And people were coming to me and be like, hey, A, can I rent your space? B, can you make these things? Do you make these podcasts? Because I was showing and telling, right? I wasn't running around selling podcasts. Yeah. People are watching this video podcast that nobody was doing. Yeah. And you're like the bar. You've set the bar. So now people are asking you questions. So I was just listening. People ask me these same questions over and over. I'm like, fuck, there's something here. And so September 2023, that was the start of it. And made a post. And then 6 months later, our other partner in this new idea, she reached out. She's like, I'm looking. And then Chris and I had started working together, and I was telling him about this thing. He's like, I've been dreaming about this bigger version of that. So now there was 3 of us that were kind of had this concept. So the concept is creating a rental facility, a 4-studio rental facility, 4 different sets that people can use for videos and photos, period. Whatever that means. That could be podcast production, that could be music videos, that could be headshots, that could be product shots, whatever. We're building 4 sets just down the street that people can rent by the half day or full day. And this idea exists because of A, I started a podcast, and B, I had a community around me. And then you start finding the right people to actually that have a similar kind of ethos and work ethic.
Definitely. The cool thing about, and when you told me about this, I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Because also I understand how you operate, but now that I met Chris as well, now I understand the vision. And I understand, and the other part, again, her name is? Martine. Amazing lady as well. I actually met her when we were actually gutting the place and getting it set up for you. Yeah. This is definitely something that is very unique. Has it been done before?
There's nothing like it in Calgary. I think in bigger markets like LA and New York, like the big markets, this idea exists, this multi-studio rental kind of idea. But nothing in Calgary. There's creative spaces in Calgary. You can rent big warehouses or empty rooms that are all painted white, and you kind of bring in your own lights and cameras and do whatever. And this is kind of Chris's, this is in his back pocket, right? He's been looking at this idea in LA for a while and other different places. And oh, by the way, our other partner's an interior designer.
Yes, right. Exactly. So let's not forget that piece.
So you put the 3 of us together, right? Yeah. We're all creative, which is a blessing and a curse, but we all have different skill sets. And so you put these 3 together and there's a lot of potential.
That's right.
And so I think it's, I don't think it doesn't exist in Calgary. I think once it pops up, I think there could be some other ones that pop up. This one, I think it's going to be a very unique concept.
Yeah. And congratulations on doing this. This is a big step, to running a business is one thing, but having a facility and trying to do the things that you guys are doing takes a lot of courage, but knowing you and obviously the people you surround yourself with, I know that you're going to approach this the same way you've approached everything, and you're going to go full speed and you're going to do it at a very high level. And and obviously perfection is not something that can be attained, but you've always towing that line. You're always trying to find the best way to do something, right? It's okay to do one thing, but do it at a certain level all the time. That's something that's in you, and that's something that's in Chris, and I know it's in Martine as well. So I'm excited to see the next chapter, and obviously I get the chance to be a couple blocks away.
Yeah, you're front row.
I'm excited to see this.
Well, it's like when you pop this place open. I don't know if you remember it, but the first time I came through here, when you actually painted it all black and you kind of did your thing, the minute I walked in here and saw you and saw this, I was like, I need this. And I said it, and so this feeling that you have in here is what we're trying to recreate. You know, I want that feeling when I walk into something. I'm like, this is it. This is home base. So what you've popped up here is the thing that really anchored me. I'm like, now I'm doing this. I need a home base.
And thank you for sharing that, you know, and I don't know if I knew that this was one of your inspiration, you know, and obviously you're a big part of this, talking about when I started this, I didn't know the direction really, and do I do this? Do I use my name? Do I do it? And I was going to go one direction, right?
You remember, what was the name? I can't remember.
It was like Relentless.
Yeah.
Performance, something.
It was like there was multiple words.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But something wrong with Relentless something, right? And then I tell you my name, you're like, dude, what are you doing?
I said to you, I was like, how do you pronounce your last name?
That's it.
Bouk. I was like, that's what it should be.
That's right. And I was like, I don't know if I should do that. I don't want to be the center of things. And I just wanted to be a place for people to kind of come in and get better. He said, no, you got to do it this way, right? And I believed you, and I went with it. And when I talked about self-actualization, it's not always you, does it? You talk about community and people always being there. Sometimes when you surround yourself with the right people, when you veer left sometimes or right, they're able to bring you back to where you need to be. So sometimes it's important to pay attention and listen, right? It's not, you have a lot, as much as you have a lot of great ideas, they're great ideas, but there's also other perspective that you need to pay attention to make things even better, right? And that's what you did for me, and I know that's what you're gonna do over there at your spot. And I will be forever thankful for the coaching that you've done for me. You know, I do have confidence in myself, but there's certain things I lack confidence in. And having you in my corner all the time, I always know that the solution will be found. I can always look to you for that. And the success I've had as a business, I want people to know that you had a massive part to play in this. And how special you are and being able to connect with me, even though we come from two different worlds. But your ability to connect with me, understand me, and understand how I need to do things. You had a chance to see me coach. You had a chance to see me doing my craft. And you really understand what I do and how I do things. And you allowed me to make things better and better and better. And it keeps going, setting this up for me and giving me the courage to do this. I'm very introverted, right? So I like to talk with people, but I like to talk to my people, and I like to be, you know, if I go into a bar in the club, whatever, I'm usually the one in the corner. I like being by myself, and that you gave me the courage to do that. And I know this is the beginning of a great journey. So I really want people to understand that there's one thing to have a skill, and there's one thing to know. Obviously, he's talking about surrounding yourself with the right people, having a skill of it. But there's the people skills you have and the way you can connect with people. That's what makes what you do so great, and you will have a lot of success doing that. So thank you for doing that for me.
Appreciate it. It's I think it's when you find like-minded people from different cultures, different backgrounds, but it's like when you can get a vibe on somebody, you understand what makes them tick. You're like, oh, I get this person. And it's a blessing and a curse, right? Sometimes I might blow people off a little too quick. Yeah. But the ones that I get.
Definitely.
And I think that's where, you know, episode 8, when you were on my show, you said 2 ears and 1 mouth. And that was really interesting. Just the skill of listening, that one really stuck with me. The other thing too, I think about when I'm connecting with people is their eyes. And the early days of you and I talking, you freaked the shit out of me. And what's interesting now is your eyes have changed.
Really?
And so when we first started hanging out, I was half the time I was like, fuck, does he actually like what I'm saying right now? Or is he like tuned out and wants to smack me? And so now your eyes are happier, which is really interesting because I have these like, I've told people about you. I'm like, man, when he stares at you, it's like, you don't know if you're in a problem spot or if you're in a good spot. And so I think it's being able to read people. And I think that allows me to connect with people.
And that's something that you get better at it. You can learn these things, but that's something that, sometimes you have a gift, and that you definitely have that gift. And I'm excited for your new journey. Before we end this show, I have a question for you. And as you know, as you've been a part of this, family is a big thing here, and we thrive on that. And I think family here has allowed people to find a place for them to be themselves and grow. And again, being in a controlled environment for them to grow and having that love consistently from people, And I would like to know, what does family means to you?
When you say that, I think of two things. Family is to set the foundation for who I am. But family now, for me, when I think of the family in where I'm at right now, I think community. I am so lucky to sit down with spectacular people every week and talk to them.
Yeah.
And they become, when I really connect with them, it's a new person in my community, and it feels like family. So family right now is this like dual-headed monster.
Yeah.
I have like my family, which is, that's it.
Yeah, Mom Dukes, Pop Dukes, and your brother, and so on and so forth.
It's that. But this new family that I'm creating of these spectacular characters, it's an interesting spot because this feels like a big family all of a sudden. So then with that comes different energy and it's funny, I think community, but I think it is a family, right? And I think this little podcast is building a family around it.
Definitely. And you've grown that to 158, and you actually had a chance to host an event last year when you connected you brought all the guests into one room, and it was so fluid. It didn't feel like, I felt like you in one massive community that just kind of flowed together. There's a lot, an interesting flow there with people, even though it's different industries, different backgrounds. There was a big flow, and the common denominator was you, right? And your ability to connect and continue to grow in this community in Calgary. You're doing something special, and I hope that one day I can come even close to that, right? And I look at you I look up to you a lot, right? And because of, you do it so easily, and so fluid, and it's like, for you, it's just like it's like taking a sip of water, right? And I admire that with you, and then you're growing an amazing community, and I'm happy that you can consider that family.
Yeah, it's interesting you say like that ease. That ease came from a lot of years of trial and tribulations. Like that, my life was tortured for a long time.
So that brings him to my next question, because the last guest wanted me to ask you a question. How do you deal with adversity?
Swing. Now that I kind of get who I am, adversity, I give myself the space to like sit with it, wherever that takes me. That could be like, I might shut down for 24 hours. No phone, sit in a basement, watch TV, don't talk to anybody. And that's one thing I'll do in adversity, when adversity shows up. The other thing I'll do is get like angry, and then I come out swinging. And so it's this, depending on what it is and how much energy I need to allocate to it, it kind of dictates which way I'm going to go. So adversity is not rolling over, but it's giving myself, sometimes I give myself the space to actually sit with it and work through it. But more often than not, it's doing something physical, clearing my mind, and then coming up with a plan to go get it. So it's never roll over. It's always kind of work towards figuring out what the solution is.
And once you do it, once you find it,
it's click.
You go.
That's it. It's very quick. Like once it's in my head, and it's time to go. There's no real there's no wiggle. It's just, we're going this way, for better or for worse. Then if that's not the path, I'll figure it out when I get there.
But the good thing about what you do too is you take the time. Some people, like I said, it's a couple of weeks, and if it's 24 hours, 24 hours.
Yep.
But take the time to sit back and observe before you make decisions.
Yep.
Right? Don't make rash decisions out of emotion. You sit back, you think, and then you know what? You reflect. Sometimes things happen, and it's for your good. You gotta pay attention and redirect yourself, right?
Yep.
But taking that time, I think, is very important.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Last thing for you is we're gonna have a guest in episode 4 coming in next week. What question would you like to leave that guest?
The first question that jumps in my head is, how does creativity fit in your world?
Speaking from Mr. Creative yourself, I love that. That's a great question.
But it's like, it's because I've thought about this and talked to so many people that I understand creativity now, and that's like very top of mind for me. So it just feels like a natural question.
Definitely, and I hope that you get enlightened by that answer from the next guest that's coming in. Jeff, thank you so much for coming in, and obviously you're already here setting it up, but now you get
double duty.
That's right, double duty here. I appreciate you doing this. This is a full circle moment for both of us. And talking about being in your podcast, you being in the podcast now, and helping me set up this, and with Chris as well, and also I'm excited for your next chapter of your life, and I know that you'll have a lot of success with it because of who you are. Obviously, you have a lot of skills, but who you are is a true difference maker, and I hope that you get to impact many more people like you did with me. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me on, man. This is, I'm proud of you for popping this thing up.
Thank you.
This has been, the timing is dead perfect, and you operating in the first 3 episodes, you're a dead natural. So I'm excited to see where you take this. And I'm jealous that it looks this good.
Thank you, bro. I know you're coming up with you're gonna make it look even better for you. So I thank you so much. I appreciate that gives me a lot of confidence moving forward. And again, guys, thank you so much for tuning into episode 3 of the book. Again, the book is the real story. We get really authentic guests coming and share their story. And Jeff, thank you for your vulnerability, sharing all these things. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Also, before you leave, make sure that you go and check the post about the giveaway, $300 giveaway. Again, you're going to have to like the post, follow Bouk Performance, follow SP Experience, and also tag a friend in the comment to be able to participate in that $300 giveaway. So have fun, and I look forward to connecting with you on social media and also seeing you guys in the next episode.